Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Roker Report podcast in association with the Southern Community Sub Kitchen. It's Gav back after the Millwall game, and yes, we didn't win, we didn't lose, but we got a point. It wasn't too bad, was it, Phil? Phil's with us. Hey mate.
Morning, Gav. No, I don't think it was bad at all, Gav. I think that, to take 4 points off of Millwall over the 2 games we played him in this season, I think that's a creditable takeaway, to be honest with you. So yeah, pretty happy with the result.
Yeah, I am as well. I was talking in the lead up to the game about how we just had to go there and compete, and I think we did for the large part. And when you look at our team on the pitch, I mean, outside of the defence, we're a pretty small team, we're a pretty nippy team, and these things are going to be difficult. When you go into Millwall away at the New Den, a place where, it's infamous for their ability for the crowd to get on top of the opposition and just, make it a difficult place to play. And they've had a really good season so far, to be fair to Millwall. So it was going to be tough, but to escape with a point is all right. And we came from behind as well. That's the other thing, and this has been a feature of this team like for probably the last 12 months or so. They've got a little bit of that about them, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, we've still got the, I think the resilience that was really instilled in the team by Alex Neil has definitely continued under Tony Mowbray. I think he's added a little bit more flair and a little bit more creative spark now. But you're absolutely right, Gav. Saturday was never going to be about razzle-dazzle football. It was tight. It was confined spaces. Our creative players didn't really have the time and the space to weave their magic. And it was a different kind of challenge from Fulham. And I don't think the contrast between the 2 games could have been any greater. But as you said, we're not the most physically dominant team. I think obviously we've got the likes of Bart and we've got Ballard, and hopefully Pierre-Emerick is going to add a little bit more clout in midfield. But we showed really good heart on Saturday, and we didn't crumble after going behind. I mean, I think you'd agree with me on this, Gav. Sunderland teams of, fairly recent years probably would have folded like an accordion after going 1-0 down at Millwall. We probably wouldn't have fought back from that maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So to do that was really impressive. But yeah, it was a gutsy performance, Gav. And again, it showed me that this team has the heart and the resilience. Even if the game's not quite their kind of game where they can play the natural style of football, we can adapt and we can grind it out if necessary.
Do you think Tony Mowbray would have took the point before the
Absolutely,
game?
yeah. As you said, Gav, it's a formidable place to go and play football. Millwall have got a very, very good home record there. Better teams than us might go there this season and find themselves being turned over. Millwall did what Millwall do. They did what any team facing Sunderland would do. They made it tough for us. They got in our faces. They shut down the spaces. They tried to rough us up a little bit, which is fine. It's not particularly attractive, but it's the way they want to play, which is okay. And it was, the challenge for our lads was, can you adapt? Can you handle what Millwall are going to throw at you? And then if you get your chance, which we obviously got in the second half, can you take that chance? So I think it was a good test for these youngsters, Gav. We've been talking all season about how Mowbray's taken these lads into different environments. They're facing different kinds of challenges. And this was another really, really difficult one for them. And I thought they passed it with, impressively. So yeah, really, really proud of them.
Yeah, and it's one of it sort of feeds into this conversation that's been going on throughout the last couple of weeks with particularly sort of the end of the transfer window and Christian Speakman's interview, which he did with the club on the club podcast, where there was an opportunity in January, I'm sure, there were multiple strikers that we could have signed, yet the decision was taken because the right player to fit this type of team, this culture, this environment, because that type of player wasn't available. They said, no, we're not going to go down that route. We're not just going to bring in anybody. We're not looking at the free agent list and going, oh, Connor Wickham and Chris Martin, well, they'll probably do a job till the end of the season. We're not going that route. And I mean, we'll probably talk about that a little bit more generally as we go on, but it feeds into this performance for me, because you look at that team, they're all largely young kids outside of the defence. I mean, there's only, you're looking at Danny Bart, other than him. The next most experienced player is probably Patrick Roberts.
Yeah.
That was a seriously young team. And there's been a big show of faith in the squad this week with that interview, with the way that the transfer window ended. And I know people probably won't want to hear that, but they've looked at it and they've went, you know what it is? The players we've got, we're going to give them the minutes they need. We're going to give them this experience. We're going to send Jack Clark, Amad Diallo, Edouard Michou, Dan Neil to Millwall, where it's notoriously difficult. You're going to get roughed up, kicked a bit, because they're going to learn about a side of the game that they maybe aren't particularly well drilled in.
Yeah.
Or certainly learn a little bit more about that side of the game when they go to places like this. That for me is why, when we go to places like Millwall and I see the team we pick is a small team that's not particularly physical, And, I don't worry, because I think at some point our quality will show, and I can put all my faith in these players to work hard. So that's what they did. We weren't going to go to Millwall, in my opinion, and play them off the park, because it's just so difficult to do. And in the build-up of the game, Tony Mowbray in his press conference talked about how when we go to Millwall, yes, we've got to be able to mix it physically, but we don't want to get dragged into a wall because we will lose. I think those were the words he used. He said, and when we get the opportunity, we have to play our football. And I don't think we did enough of that. I mean, there were some nice moments. I mean, probably the nicest move of the game for me was the one where Patrick Roberts ran half a length of the pitch and should have passed it and didn't. But, we did have those moments in the game where we did play nice stuff. But there's been a big show of faith this week in these players, to say to them, look, we haven't brought a striker in because we believe we have enough. We believe in you. Yeah. We believe you've got enough quality to be able to manage games in the Championship. So we went to Millwall with that in mind, and to me, did a good job of it. I mean, we're not going to be looking back at this game in 10 years and talking about how great a performance it was or how great a game it was to watch, because it wasn't. But it's a point on the board. It's one of the most important points on the board for me, because you're right what you just said before, Phil. Teams are going to go to Millwall and probably have beaten Millwall this season and have been beaten with better quality of players on the pitch. And huge learning experience for these players.
I mean, I think there are 2 points here, Gav. I mean, the first one is, never in my time supporting this club has there been such a big show of faith in youth. We've always had teams over the years that have had a smattering of young prospects, here and there, but there's never been, that I can recall, such a heavy investment in youth, which I think is really exciting. And the other point about it as well is that I can't remember many Sunderland teams in recent years who've had such a tight team spirit and such a strong sense of unity about them. This is a very, very well tightly knitted group of players who really believe in each other, and I think the manager believes in them and they believe in him. And I think that's really credit to Tony Mowbray. But you're absolutely right, Gav. In many ways, I felt that Saturday was kind of a throwback to the League One years, really. For example, it might have been reminiscent of a trip to Wickham, where we knew what was coming. They would make it difficult for us. The crowd would be up for it. And our players would either rise to the challenge or they would wilt under the pressure. And I felt we rose to the challenge on Saturday without a doubt. But, just touching on your comments about, the free agent market and the lack of strikers, look, it would have been great for us to bring in more strikers. And I'm not turning cartwheels at the fact that we've only got Joe Gelhardt for the rest of the season. But the days of us bringing in players who would do a job or a short-term fix or whatever, they're gone, Gav. And you know that as well as anybody. They're gone under this regime and they're not going to be coming back. So it was a brave move from the hierarchy to stick with what they've got. I felt Christian Speakman explained it quite well, to be honest with you. He was articulate about it. He was quite reasoned. He was quite balanced about it, which was fair enough. But it is a show of faith, and it's also a challenge for the likes of Ahmad, for Gelhardt, for Roberts, for Clark as well, and for the likes of Dan Neil to also chip in with goals as well and see if they can, help to fill the void that's been left by Ross Stewart. So yeah, it's an incredible show of faith, Gav. Some might view it as a gamble, and I think I can see some merit in that as well. But it's exciting, and I think we need excitement as Sunderland fans, Gav. There's no sense now of stagnation or of drifting. I think they're trying to really move this club forward. And they've obviously gone down the path of youth investment, which is good. And I think it's really exciting, Gavin. I think that we can be proud of the efforts on Saturday because, it was a really strong Millwall team, physically strong Millwall team as well. And we're not the most physically dominant, but we were able to handle what they threw at us and we came away with a point. So, big test passed.
Yeah, and you said gamble there. It is a gamble. It's a huge gamble. But is it one worth taking? I don't think they would have taken that gamble had we been struggling. But we're not.
Yeah.
We aren't struggling, we're competing. And I guess the frustration for a lot of fans will be, well, if we take a gamble in the transfer market, then we might get promoted. And, it's whether you weigh it up and you go, well, is it worth it? Could we still achieve the same results with the players we've got? And it's a bit of an opportunity, really, because you look at the players we've got and you think, well, how many other occasions are you going to get where you get this opportunity to play a large amount of your young players in nearly every game? Like, we might not get this chance again, and it's only because players like Evans and Stuart mainly, I know Wright's left, but it's only because they aren't about where we these opportunities have been given, and they've maybe looked at it and went, well, when else are we going to be able to do this? It's a big learning curve for some of these lads, where they're in a situation where it's like, right, we've got one striker, but Ahmad's got quality, Patrick Roberts has got quality, and arguably should be showing more. Other than the nice touches and intricate play and stuff. You want to see some end product from him, and the challenge to Patrick Roberts between now and the end of the season has to be, come on, get some more goals, get some more assists. All you got to do is show him that chance at Millwall. I mean, he ran half the length of the pitch, and then when you just want him to just knock it to the side of Gelhardt, he shoots himself. And if it goes in, we're talking about goal of the season contender. But I think, that's maybe the difference sometimes with Patrick Roberts and, maybe a Premier League player, is he doesn't have that decisiveness.
Yeah.
And you can go right around the pitch. You can go to Joe Gelhardt, he probably didn't expect to come straight in playing every week. He was probably expecting to push Ross Stewart for a little bit, then maybe play with him, And the challenge now is, well, good luck to you, son. You've come here to a massive club. You're the only striker. Show what you can do. And like I say, you can go right along the attacking line. You can challenge maybe Jack Clark a little bit more. The lads on the fringes like Abdullah Bar and Joseph Benetti, get these lads involved a little bit more than we perhaps would have. And we should be all right. I can't see us struggling this season. And I think that's the gamble they've took. They've looked at it and said, we're not going to go down here. So rather than bring in more players, let's give the ones we've got better opportunities. And I guess to me, you look at the Millwall game, if you'd said to me even a month ago that your midfield away at Millwall would be Michu and Dan Neil, I probably would have worried a little bit. But Michu's only been given opportunities recently because of Corey Evans' injury, and he's come in and he's shown that he's all right. He's shown he can mix it, and I don't think this was ever going to be a game where he shone particularly. But it's a big show of faith from us to put him in that situation. So I actually think this game at Millwall is a sort of a microcosm of the wider picture and what's coming. In that we went somewhere where traditionally you would expect Sunderland to pick a team to try and counteract what Millwall have got, and we didn't. And that's going to be sort of a benchmark for the rest of the season. You could have changed it. You could have probably started Alex Pritchard. You could have played Cirkin and got an extra defender in to deal with the aerial threat. Maybe even started Ekwah instead of Michu, but he didn't. Yeah. He went with his gut and he went with what's been working for us. So it's been a big step forward for me. And I know that there's probably people listening to this thinking, what you're talking about, we need a striker. I know we need a striker. You just said it, Phil. I totally agree. We do. We could have done with another striker. But there's part of us that really likes the ballsiness and the gamble they've taken. I do quite admire it.
I mean, I don't think that the lack of a striker can kind of, should detract from the overall quality of the squad, Gav, because this is an incredibly exciting Sunderland squad. Okay, it would have been lovely to have more strikers in by the end of the transfer window, without a doubt, but we did add some quality and we did add a lot of potential there with obviously the Hadji as well and Ekwah coming in, Joe Anderson as well from Everton. But just on Edouard Michu, who I think has really been impressive in recent weeks. I think he mentioned after the game, there was a quote from him, apparently he said to Tony Mowbray, we never got this kind of thing out in Paris or in France. And I think, games like Saturday are really important for him, his development as a footballer, and not just for his impact for Sunderland, because he's obviously come from Paris, the glitz and the glamour of PSG, training with superstar players or being involved with a squad filled with superstar players. And then all of a sudden you're at the Den, you've got 18,000 fans, right on top of you. You're in it, the game's tight. It's a physical affair. Are you going to rise to that challenge? And I think the attitude, Gav, of someone like Michu really does kind of typify the attitude of the wider squad, is that they're eager to learn. They're not shying away from the challenges. They're embracing, what it means to play for Sunderland. And they're doing so with an incredible amount of pride as well. And I think that's, in no small part down to the culture that's been created by Tony Mowbray, because it was obviously a big part of why he was brought to the football club in the first place, to help develop young players and to take them into tough environments and to guide them and give them the support that they need as young players. And I think they're thriving on the back of that. Dan Neil's another one. I know Jack Clark had a bit of a frustrating game on Saturday, but he'll come good again. There's no doubt about that. We know that Ahmad's got a lot of quality as well. So I think when you put that all together, I think what you've got the players kind of in a safe space where they can perform without the crushing pressure that we've had in recent years. And I think Mowbray's played a big part in that as well. Yeah. And I think they're thriving on the back of that. So it's definitely, you can see the plan starting to take shape. I know a lot of people have kind of been a bit critical about it, and they've said that maybe Speakman's a bit inflexible when it comes to the model, so to speak. But when you step back and you look at it in kind of a wider perspective, there's some real rhyme and reason to what's going on at the football club now. And I think long term, it's going to benefit us enormously. I really, really do.
Yeah, when you see, I only just saw the tweet this morning, Jack Clark, that was his 50th appearance in a Sunderland shirt. We're giving opportunities to these young lads where it's needed. And like I say, they're only going to learn on the job, really. It's going to be invaluable, I think. What other situation would any of these players ever have where they're playing in this sort of environment for a club like this and getting those opportunities in big games? So what I am worried about, I'm obviously worried about the fact that it's impossible to replace Ross Stewart. I just don't think, it doesn't matter how good Joe Gelhardt is, he isn't going to be Ross Stewart because he's, one, very different physically, and two, doesn't have the same experience. But I don't think it's a massive step, to be honest. Yes, Stewart's got that ability to be more physical and go long and sort of those situations where you have to battle with defenders. Ross Stewart can do it. But when you think about his all-round game, he isn't a out-and-out target man or an out-and-out poacher. He's a false nine. He doesn't look like one. You think of false nines, you think of like Luis Suarez, Lionel Messi, Neymar, those types of players who've sort of perfected that role over the years. Ross Stewart's a false nine. He drops in, he works hard sort of when the opposition have got the ball, and then when we've got the ball, he's often picking up spaces in wide positions or as a number 10 and feeding it and getting involved that way. So it's not inconceivable that Gelhardt can't do that. Yeah, I don't expect him to be able to do the physical side of it as well. But I think that role Stewart's actually playing in the team over 90 minutes as opposed to just what he does in front of the net and scoring goals, Gelhardt can replicate that. And I think Ahmad can replicate that, because they're both very capable of doing that. So that, and to be honest, when you listen to the sort of the language Mowbray uses whenever he's been asked about this recently, he always talks about Ahmad straight away. I think they quite clearly say Ahmad is a player who can play that position too. And yeah, I think to be fair, he's taken up a more central role since the World Cup and he's played a very different role. So I don't know. I don't want people to sit and listen to this and think we're sitting making excuses for them, because I'm not. I'm really not. I can see the bigger picture here. And while I actually think, there's a huge opportunity to get promoted this season, if we do it this way, it'll have been worth it. And if we don't get promoted, then I don't think anyone will be too disappointed anyways, because that was never the original intention of the season. So, if we're sitting here doing this podcast at the end of the season and we've gone, well, we just missed out, or we finished 9th or 10th, but we played some fantastic football, we scored some great goals, then we'll probably be like, it was worth it. When it won't be worth it is if we get more injuries, and that's what we can't deal with. God forbid, touch wood, we get an injury to Ahmad or Gelhardt, then we are probably struggling a little bit. But that's the same of any team. You might have two strikers. It could be any club, 2 or 3 strikers. If 2 of those players get injured, then you are struggling. So it just is what it is. I think it's obvious why people are struggling to take it, but I think maybe, give it a few weeks, people will realise it's not been such a bad thing once Gelhardt gets amongst the goals and stuff.
I mean, I always felt, Gavin, this is, even looking back to that summer when you looked at the kind of players we were bringing to the football club in terms of attackers, I always felt that what they were trying to do was they were looking for goals from elsewhere rather than just being solely reliant on Ross Stewart to shoulder that burden. And I felt that was why they brought Ahmad to the club. I felt it was obviously, they were obviously looking at Patrick Roberts as well. And obviously with Ellis Sims coming in as well, for the first half of the season. So I always got a sense that the recruitment was geared towards helping Ross Stewart and kind of taking the burden off him. Obviously, he's still your frontline centre forward and he's still got a huge role to play, but making sure that you've got the players behind him who are capable of scoring goals as well. And you're absolutely right, Gav. We all know what Ross Stewart can bring to this team when he's fully fit. He's an all-round dynamic centre forward who can tick a multitude of boxes. He's a brilliant defender. He can defend at corners, he drops deep and he links the play and all the rest of it. So you're right, replacing that is nigh on impossible. But what we're going to have to do, and I think Mowbray will know this, we're going to have to adapt our style of play in order to get the best out of Joe Gelhardt. You wrote about this on the website this morning. If we have to kind of change our style of play, or if we have to kind of adapt, if we don't have to go along, etc., to bring Gelhardt into the game, well, that's what we've got to do. So it's going to be an interesting test now for the rest of the season to see how we tweak our style of play, what changes we make, and how the likes of Ahmad and Roberts can help Gelhardt to kind of, to lead the line. So I don't buy the argument, Gav, that losing Ross Stewart and not bringing in any reinforcement is a season-ending scenario, because you look at the league table and we're still right in the thick of the playoff chase. We're not drifting away from the playoffs, and we're not starting to slide. We're still banging the chase for the top 6. So I think we need a little bit of perspective in that sense. It's going to be a challenge, and as you say, if it does cost us a top 6 berth come the end of the season, then I'm sure everyone will reflect and they'll think, what if, if only we brought in him, or only if we brought in him. The model is not perfect, Gav, and I don't think anybody's claiming it is. That, they're learning about trying to iron out the flaws in it. They're trying to make sure that the bases are covered. I don't think they did it entirely in January, but, they've just got to keep on trying, and to a certain extent, it's never going to be perfect, but I do think this is still a very good squad, and I don't think we can overlook that. There's a lot of quality there. There's a lot of talent within the team, and the challenge for them now for the remaining games is, can we pick up where Ross left off? Can we shoulder the burden? And can we chip in with the goals that's going to keep us in the playoff hunt? I don't think attitude-wise is a problem either, Gav. I think they'll be bang up for it. Really, really do.
It's interesting as well, isn't it, that they never really gave in to sort of the pressure of... Because it would have been so easy to just go and sign a striker.
You looked at that. There was a free agent list doing the rounds on Twitter a couple of days after the transfer window closed. Depressing the amount of former Sunderland players that was on, I have to say. But I think Wickham was on there. I think obviously Chris Martin was on there as well.
To me, that's desperation time, that, when you're looking at those types of players.
But as you said earlier, if the dynamic was different, if we were kind of, maybe in the relegation zone or looking as if we were heading towards the relegation zone, it's a different scenario altogether. But we're comfortably in mid-table. We picked up a good point against Millwall on Saturday. We've got an eminently winnable game against Reading this weekend. We've got an FA Cup tie, which to a certain extent is a free swing. We're in a good position, Gav. We're in a really encouraging position, and I don't think the pressure is as intense as it might well have been, and that's got to have factored into their thinking.
Yeah, it just shows the difference between sort of now and the regime that they replaced, really, because we were in this exact situation in the January transfer window where we hadn't replaced Josh Madger, and Stuart Donald nearly bankrupted himself trying to sign Will Grigg, because of pressure from fans, from social media and stuff. And this is a totally different operation now, isn't it?
I just don't think, Gav, the quick fix solutions are part of their plan here. And again, I know you can, people might criticise and say, well, you've got to have a certain amount of flexibility, which is fair enough. But I don't think that flexibility should lead you to just kind of going out into the free agent market and signing someone on the basis that they might fit in or they might do a job. As you said earlier, Gav, there's a very, very specific framework, within which they're operating now. They're targeting players of a certain profile. They're targeting players who they know can contribute both in the here and now and longer term as well. And none of those free agents really would have ticked any of those boxes. So, again, Christian Speakman will stand off for by these decisions. That's his job, and he knows the flat that comes with being Sunderland sporting director. God knows he's taken a fair bit of it. And again, we'll have to see, but I think they've obviously looked at the league table, they've looked at how Mowbray is doing, they've looked at the form that the players are in, and they've thought, okay, it's not going to make people too happy. We're going to take a chance. We're going to go with what we've got, and we're going to see where it leads. And ultimately, Gav, that's their decision, and they'll stand or fall by that.
Yeah. And like I say, we've got other players to come into the fold, haven't we?
Absolutely.
Isaac Lee Hadji, to me, is an interesting one, because I think they're going to be pretty patient with him. But when you look at he's a big boy, quite quick, skillful on the floor. He's going to be in that mix with the other lads, but maybe they'll look at him and think, give him a month or two. Yeah. He'll be seriously competing in this team and probably scoring goals. Depends on, I don't know anything about him. I've not really seen him play, but there's obviously a reason they brought him here. It wasn't to replace Ross Stewart. I'm not saying that, but they're probably looking at him and thinking towards the end of the month, going into maybe March, he could be in the mix and starting games and really competing. So we have got options. I think the problem is you sort of pigeonhole players, and we don't play a rigid formation. We don't play a bank of four. We have quite a fluid team, and that attack isn't just it's not like the old days when you used to put one up front and that was usually just to lump it forward and try and defend away from home or whatever. We play one striker, but we also have 3-4 players behind them involved in every move. So it's not just, there isn't a heavy reliance on one player to do everything. I'm just not worried, Phil, if I'm honest. I'm just not worried. I don't know whether I don't know whether it's just, blind faith or whatever, but it doesn't panic us. I wasn't panicked when we didn't sign somebody on deadline day. After the Millwall game, I didn't feel panicked. Could we have won that game with Ross Stewart up front? Absolutely. But, he got injured, and there's nothing we can do about that. And
Yeah.
there aren't Ross Stewarts growing on trees, and that's the sad fact of the matter. I wish there was, but there isn't. So we move on, don't we? And like I say, I saw enough battling qualities from this team at Millwall to suggest we're going to be all right. And by the way, we haven't even mentioned it. We scored a header against a team who are probably the best team in the league when it comes to those situations, defending set pieces. So we are getting we are improving, we are getting better. And to me, there's not a lot to worry about at the minute.
No, I mean, the goal we scored against Millwall really kind of was a microcosm of the performance, wasn't it? It was a great ball in from Alex Pritchard, who, by the way, I think his return is going to be enormous for us,
especially with all the experience we've lost.
Yeah,
huge,
absolutely. I mean, you look when he came on against Millwall on Saturday, he got his foot on the ball. He kept everything calm. He helped us retain possession, and the free kick that he whipped in for the second goal was absolutely perfect. So I don't think you can underestimate how big Pritchard's return is going to be. But the second goal, Gav, which, he took an absolute whacking for his trouble. I know he was briefly knocked unconscious, according to Tony Mowbray. But again, that is the difference in these games between, walking away empty-handed or walking away with a precious point. Sometimes you've got to show that heart and that determination. I mean, I think it was the goal he scored against Wigan at home where he kind of came in. It wasn't exactly as a similar situation to that, but he kind of dived in,
he did,
went in where it hurts, and Serkin's got that. And that's from a young player as well, by the way. That's not from if someone like Danny Bart had done that, we'd have been saying that's just Bart doing Bart things, isn't it? He's brave, he's big, he's strong, he goes in there. For a young player like Serkin, who's had injury problems since he's been at the club, to go in like that, get right in where it hurts and make contact with the ball, that shows incredible battling qualities, Gavin. Those battling qualities are going to be huge for us between now and the end of the season, because when you put that together with the undoubted skill and the talent that we've got, sometimes we've had talent at Sunderland teams, but their attitude hasn't quite been right. But I think with this team, you've got the perfect mix.
Yeah.
And that's really going to set us in good stead for the rest of the season. And in a way, it felt strangely satisfying to score a goal like that, because it was an ugly goal to score. But they can be the most satisfying ones, can't they? It's always great to see a wonderful goal, but to score one like that, really, really satisfying.
Yeah, it's a good point. We move on. We've got Fulham. We'll quickly talk about this before we leave, Phil. Fulham on Wednesday night. You looking forward to that? You think we're going to be in the mix?
Absolutely, Gav. I think it's a really good chance for the players again, to get back in front of a home crowd, to show what they can do. Hopefully the game will probably be maybe a little bit similar to the first game down at Craven Cottage, and we've got the time and the space to play the natural side of football. It's a free hit, Gavin. I just want to see the players go out there and really play their game, play without pressure, play without fear, which I think they will. I don't think they'll be too worried about that. And if we get through, great. And if we don't, then it's a learning experience and we move on to Reading. So, and it'll be interesting to see, of course, how Tony Mowbray goes in terms of team selection. Maybe make some changes, give some of the other lads a rest. And I think it's going to be a really exciting game, Gav. I'm really looking forward to it, I have to say.
Yeah, I think Luke O'Nine's back for this one, isn't he?
Yes.
So he'll probably play. You would imagine maybe Pierre will play. Abdullah Bar, Pritchard. There are changes to be made. I think it's a bit different to the first game where I think we probably do need to make a few changes. But I still like to say I think we'll compete. It's going to be on TV, so that's good. And go for it. I think we've established that there's no fear at the minute with Sunderland, and there's no reason why we should fear Fulham. There's no reason why we should fear anything, really. And if we get beat, we get beat, But as long as we go out there and we do our thing, then you can't complain, really, can you? All you want to see our players do is do their best. And our best at the minute seems to be by playing some fantastic football and working very hard. And whether we win, lose or draw, that doesn't disappoint me. I've never come away from a game this season, I don't think, and felt we didn't give enough. We didn't work hard enough. So let's take it to Fulham. Let's just see what happens, And the boys we throw in, present them with that opportunity and say, look, you're getting a chance tonight because on Saturday we've got a really big game and we've lost a few lads. We've got positions up for grabs and we need you to take them. Challenge has to be to like a Luke O'Nien, you've lost your spot through a bit of stupidity.
Yeah.
But prior to that, you were arguably our most important player and the defence has established itself in your absence. So you need to have a great game tonight. Go out there and do it against Premier League opposition. That there's many conversations to be had, but the wider point is that there's nothing to fear here, really, is there?
No, absolutely not. And as you said, Gav, it really is an excellent chance for someone like Pierre Ekwa, for example, who I think Mowbray is kind of gradually phasing in. This feels like the perfect opportunity to start him, to see what he can bring to the table. And for Abdullah Bar as well, who we all know has got a lot of quality, but he's been out with the picture for a while. I think that Mowbray will, to me, it's the classic thing of, wanting to show the opponent and the competition due respect, but also with one eye on the league, which of course is the priority. But he's got that scope to change things if he wants to. So yeah, I would expect some changes, but I don't think this is going to be necessarily a second string Sunderland team that he puts out, and I don't think they'll go out there with the attitude of it's just one more game to get out of the way. I think they'll go out there, they'll give it their all, they'll want to win, they'll want to give the fans something to get excited about, because obviously we've got Leeds in the next round, and there'll be a lot of hype around that game as well, with the 50th anniversary and so on. And I think this team, in the first game down at Craven Cottage, I think they performed like a team that really cares about this competition. They didn't phone the performance in; they were really up for it. And I think it'll be the same on Wednesday, Gav. So I'm really excited about it, I have to say.
Think we'll win?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I do. I think we'll win. I think it'll be nervy, and I think it'll be tense. And I think Fulham will definitely put us to the test again. But yeah, I think we will win it. I really, really do. I've got a lot of faith in this team.
Yeah, same. I think we'll win 1-0, I think. But if we don't, then I don't really care either. Either way, it is what it is. Although you just reminded us there about the Leeds thing. That's the carrot to dangle in front of the players, isn't it? Because it's a big home game.
Absolutely.
It's going to be on TV. You know what the narrative's going to be around the game because of the anniversary of the 1973 Cup final. It just feels right that we should play Leeds. So yeah, I'm pretty hopeful about this one. But yeah, all I want to say is go out there, play some good stuff, and let's see what happens.
Absolutely.
Cheers, Phil. Thanks for joining us, mate.
No worries, Gav. Thank you very much.
Cheers to listeners. Thanks for joining us as always. Make sure you catch up with rotorreport.sbnation.com all throughout the week. We'll have post and pre-match and all the rest of it stuff, opinions, news, views, all that good stuff from Sunderland fans just like your good self. And yeah, we'll catch you down the road. Cheers.